so this week's Parsha, Torah portion, is Parasha Vayetze. So when you read the Parsha, it's all these Parshas are all continuations of the previous Parsha. So I got to give background about the previous Parsha to understand, this Parsha a little bit more better. So we know that what happened, that, the whole story of Yaakov and Esav, that so there's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? And Isaac, who in Hebrew Yitzchak, wanted to give the blessing of the firstborn to Esav, okay? And then we know there's Yaakov and Esav. Esav was bad, wicked, evil. Yaakov was a tzaddik, he was a righteous person. And Yitzchak, again, and that's our previous class that we talk about this, for whatever reason, made a mistake in a sense that obviously he's a great person, but he made a miscalculation and he wanted to give, the blessing to Esav. But Rivka and Yaakov knew that the right thing to do was for them to get the blessing. Okay, so Yaakov took the blessing. Jacob, right? He took the blessing, and now Esav, he comes back and he finds that his father already gave the blessing to Yaakov, and then from that moment on, he said, that he's going to take revenge. That whenever he gets the opportunity, that he's going to, kill his brother, his twin brother Yaakov, because he took the birthright from him, the firstborn right. Which, again, according to many different reasons, there's a lot of deeper understanding behind that. But fine, to different opinions, I meant. So now that Yaakov is in his brother's trying to kill him, he's scared for his life. So his parents basically tell him, Yaakov, listen, we want you to go get married right now. Go to there's a place called Haran, okay, and Rivka has a brother, you have an uncle there, his name is Lavan. I want you to go to Lavan. Lavan has daughters. I want you to go there to marry his daughters. Okay. Yaakov says he's going to go. Long story short, he eventually gets there. He starts working for Lavan, and we know the whole story. And he ends up getting married and having kids. Fine. Now, when you do the calculations in the Torah, you find that there's an extra 14 years, okay, that is missing from the from the timing of all these stories together. I'm not going to go into all the calculations. And when you read in the beginning of Parsha Vayetze, okay, when you read in the beginning of the Parsha, there's a Rashi, and Rashi basically tells us that Yaakov on his way to travel to Haran, he took a nap, he slept, and he lied his head down. And Rashi says, yeah, you know why the Torah is emphasizing he lied his head down? Because you know what happened? He didn't sleep for 14 years while he's in Yeshiva, in the Yeshiva of Shem and Ever, okay? In the Learning Institute of Shem and Ever, the Academy of Shem and Ever. Okay, and then Rashi, just that as if that's not even a big deal in itself, where did that come from? And he continues, and on his commentary. So we got to analyze the story. So first of all, it doesn't mean that you could read that literally and say he didn't sleep for 14 years, but obviously the Torah, even the Torah itself says it's impossible to go, I think, 3 days without sleeping. It's emphasizing that he didn't lie down. So maybe if he slept, he slept on the table or desk. But that's whatever. That's not the side point. That's a side point. What's the main point here? It says Yaakov went to Yeshiva for 14 years, to the Academy of Shem and Ever. Now, if we go back to the beginning of Parsha Toldot, when it talks about, Yaakov and Esav being born, when it talks about Yaakov, it says Yaakov, right? Ish tam yoshev ba'ohel. He's a, simple, pure, whatever you want to translate tam as, but he's a man of the tents. A wholesome man, a man of the tents, whatever that means. Now, wholesome man, whatever that means, but what is ish ohalim, a man of the tents? What does it mean? It says Esav ish sadeh. He's a man of the field. He's always in the field. Yaakov is always in the tent. What is Yaakov doing in the tent? Was he playing on his God forbid? Was he playing on his phone? What was he doing all day? There's no what would we do all day home all day? People have computers, phones, read a book. What was he doing? What was Yaakov doing? Yaakov was learning Torah. Ish ohalim means what? He's a man of the tent. He was studying Torah. Wow, what does he mean he's studying Torah? There was Torah back then? Yes, there was Torah back then. Torah is not a new thing that just came from Mount Sinai. God spoke to Adam, and Adam to Noah, and there's something called the 7 laws of Noah. That's called Torah also. That's the wisdom Torah means wisdom, wisdom for living. That was the wisdom that God gave to humanity. And obviously, slowly, the ultimate epitome of that wisdom and that revelation was at Mount Sinai, thousands of years later. But the idea is that there was wisdom. There was wisdom of, the 7 laws, certain commandments God already gave, to Abraham, of circumcision. And, there's certain things they knew. And also the wisdoms of the world. It says, the Gemara says, that the Avot, the forefathers, they knew all the Torah, they knew about Pesach, they were eating matzah, right? And again, that's a class for a different time. But the idea is what? The idea is they knew the mitzvah. So what was he doing, Yaakov? He was studying Torah. Okay? Now, what age was Yaakov? When he left Haran. When he left Israel. What age was he? It says he was 63. And by the time he went and got married and had a kid, he was 77. Okay? Now, so that means if you do the calculation, right, so 77 minus 63 is 14 years. So Rashi says, that's missing 14 years. He was 14 years in the yeshiva of Shem and Ever. Okay, beautiful. Now, the question becomes, first of all, what was Yaakov's yeshiva? It was Ish Ohalim. So he had the best rabbis in the world. Avraham was the biggest rabbi, the Nasi Elohim, the president of God in the world. He was teaching all about, God. So he had Abraham and you had Yitzchak. Yitzchak was his son. So he's the next Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva, head rabbi, head of the academy. Okay? So Yaakov had the best teachers in the world. He was learning Torah from his father and his grandfather. Beautiful. Okay? Now, he was doing that for 63 years. We can't get better than that. Now all of a sudden, his family says, okay, you gotta leave. Your brother's trying to kill you. Go get married. And now, what did he do? Instead of going to get married right away, he took a 14-year break. He stopped. He went back to yeshiva. He started learning. And again, he didn't go to Avram. He went to a different yeshiva, the academy. He went to the academy of Shem and Ever. Okay? And he was learning Torah for 14 years. And then after he felt, okay, I have 14 years of Torah. Let me go now and start my life. The question becomes, why did Yaakov go back to yeshiva for another 14 years to the Academy of Shem and Ever when already he was 63 years old? Yeah, you know how old 63 is? You're obligated to get married, when you're younger, right? 63, that's late, man. How the heck did Yaakov wait so long to get married? And why did he go back to yeshiva again if he was already in yeshiva his whole life? That is the question here. Why did Yaakov go back to yeshiva? Why didn't he just go straight and get married? He was already set to go. Now, we got to understand, to get to answer this question, that's the question. Why did Yaakov go back to yeshiva? How do we answer this question? We got to understand what the difference between the yeshiva of Abraham and Yitzchak and the yeshiva of Shem and Ever. Okay, and by the way, Shem and Ever is Abraham and Isaac and Yaakov's great grandfather. Okay, but fine. Now, who is Shem and Ever? Okay, Shem and Ever were people who lived amongst the worst of the worst. Okay. Shem lived in the time of the Noach's flood. He was Noach's son. So he saw how the whole world, stealing, murdering, killing, raping, and everyone was so off. Okay? And he stayed righteous even though everybody around them was corrupted. Okay? So that's a big thing with Shem. What about Ever? Ever's great-great-grandson, what happened with him? He lived in the Tower of Babel, right? When Nimrod took everybody and tried to build the Tower of Babel, the big ginormous temple that reached, that was basically an idol worship temple to deny God and, quote unquote, fight God, okay? The idea is he lived in that time and he still stayed righteous among all the evil people around him, okay? Now, Avram and Yitzchak, so Avram, we know he was out there, he was involved, but particularly Yitzchak, which was, Yitzchak wasn't, kind of out there as much as Shem and Ever. Yitzchak he was born to a righteous father. Okay, he was in Israel. He never left Israel. He was usually mostly to himself with his family. Okay, and the idea was, so Yaakov was born in a more, in a sense, pure environment around less evil people. Of course, he was born around Esav, and Esav was evil, but still, Esav was his brother. It's different than an outside factor, But the idea was, he was more sheltered where he was. Ish Ohalim, right? And it calls him Tam, right? Tam is, kind of the same word to describe Noach, right? Noach was also Ish Tam, right? He was more to himself, yeah? Now, on the other hand, Shem and Ever, they experienced the world. Now, Yaakov, they experienced the world? They experienced crooks. They deal with all types of things. So Yaakov said, listen, I'm about to go start my life, okay? For 63 years, I was more focused on the Torah talks about every topic, but it was more focused on, Torah details, maybe that, didn't have to do with as much as, the outside, we call it the Torah of Galut. I think that's what Rashi says. The Torah of exile. He was there's two types of Torah in a sense. Again, obviously there's all one Torah, but there's Torah of more personal to yourself, and there's Torah of how to deal with other people. Okay? So he was learning that with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. From what the commentaries say. He was learning that. But now that he's about to go into the world, what is he about to do? He's about to deal with the biggest crook in the world. Okay? Lavan, they call him Lavan Ha'arami. What does Lavan Ha'arami mean? Lavan the Arami, the crook. His name is literally Lavan the crook. And if you keep continuing and reading the story, what do you see about Lavan? You see Lavan, he went, he literally, scammed Yaakov. He told him, okay, you want to marry my daughter? And then Rachel, his younger daughter, and then he tricked her, and he tricked Yaakov under the wedding canopy, and gave him Leah, and it was too late, and whatever. And now he said, okay, you want my other daughter? Work another 7 years for me. Okay? The idea was that he's the biggest crook in the world, scamming after scams. And then the Torah says, he tried killing Yaakov. He told Yaakov told him, you scammed me over 100 times. So again, Lavan, the biggest crook. So what happened? Yaakov said, okay, I'm about it. He knew of Lavan. Lavan, everyone knew it. That's why when you read the beginning of the Parsha, it's like, do you know about Lavan? Like he was asking people around to see what people had to say. He knew who Lavan was. He knew his Eliezer, right, went and met Lavan in Betuel, right? Eliezer was basically Avraham's servant. So he kind of found the wife, Rivka. He found Rivka for Yitzchak. The idea is what? The idea is, so he knew about, Lavan is a crook. Okay, it was well known. But the idea is what? The idea is that, so before he went out into the world, before he went, to go to work, basically work for Lavan, so he had to learn, how do I deal with crooks? So who's the best person to go, best people to go to, best academy? Maybe not the academy of Avraham and Yitzchak, maybe the academy of Shem and Ever, because they dealt with crooks. And not only that, he had to live amongst them until, for many years. So he needs to learn, how do I live and stay righteous among evil people? So that's why he went there. And why else did he go there? He was about to get married. So he needs to learn, okay, how do I get married? How do I treat a wife? All that stuff. So he needs to learn the Torah, the wisdom on marriage. Now we also know he wanted to get, have kids, right? So he needs to learn, okay, how do I raise kids? What are the wisdom and values I need to raise kids, especially in a bad environment, right? He also needs to learn how to work. We see that, he knew so much deep wisdom. Yaakov, he knew genetics, he knew actually epigenetics, right? Rabbi Ephraim Palanov has a whole thing in his book about this. The idea is what? That he had to get educated. So why did Yaakov go back to Yeshiva? Why did he go back? What was the point? The answer is because before you start your life, before you go into the world, marriage, dating, we live in a world where there's a 75, I think in California in particular, there's a 75% divorce rate. In America, it's about 60% divorce rate. The marriage rate is extremely low. Most people are not getting married, and if they do get married, it's very late in their lives. Kids are addicted to iPhones, iPads. Kids are basically, their brains don't work. They have to use ChatGPT to, basically search up any question. We live in a destructive world where society around us is basically going down. Okay. And the idea is, you could go, you could go to school. School teaches you how to make a living, okay? School teaches you how to be a doctor, lawyer. It teaches you all that stuff. But school doesn't teach you how to live life. It doesn't teach you how to be the best you, how to work on your bad character traits, how to be the best husband, how to raise kids, how to, what the purpose of life is, how to work on, trusting in God and not having anxiety. School doesn't teach you that. So Yaakov said, if I don't go back to Yeshiva now, I'm going to go into my life and I'm going to fail. I'm going to be set up for failure. Because the Torah I learned in the Academy of Avraham and Yitzchak wasn't the same Torah of the Torah of Galut, the Torah of exile, the Torah I need to learn of how to interact with other people. That's why Yaakov went back to Yeshiva for 14 years. That answers the question. Why? Because you can't go into your life and just rush and close your eyes and just think you know how to do everything, And so many people, they just go through their lives. They don't get educated. They're in a rush. Okay, I got to go to work. I got to make money. But they never give themselves a chance. Okay, learn how to work on your bad character traits. Learn about the purpose of life. Learn about how to treat, how to find your soulmate, or marriage, dating, raising kids. They don't learn anything, and they think they're gonna go into life and they're just gonna wing it. Like imagine an airplane pilot says, I'm gonna fly the plane. I'm just gonna wing it. I never got educated. Or imagine a guy going to surgery and says, okay, I'm gonna cut this guy's heart open, but I never done it before. I never read any textbook. I'm just going to do it. You can't just wing things, especially your life, especially your future, especially your family. It's not something that, you all of a sudden figure out along the way. You know, those people write books on, on marriage. They say, I went through 10 divorces until I know what a good marriage is. Here are my tricks. I mastered it all. I went through 10 divorces. Like, that's how they talk, these authors of these books. But instead of doing that, why not go to the instruction manual itself? Why not go to the Torah? God gave the Torah. You can prove it, right? That's the whole indisputable truth. That's the whole idea about that. The idea is, why not go to the Torah itself and see the creator of the universe? He created marriage. He must know better than anybody, that how to have a good marriage, how to raise kids. And the idea is, that's why Yaakov went back to yeshiva. So now let's focus on yeshiva. What is yeshiva? Yeshiva is a place a Jew goes, or whatever, it's an academy. It's a place where you go, it's a learning institute to go study Torah, to study life wisdom, okay? There's no test, there's no exams. That's not what yeshiva is. So for example, let's talk about yeshiva Eish Torah, all right? So if you go to, let's say, for example, Eish, what do they teach you at Eish? It's by, there's yeshivas in Israel, there's yeshivas in New York, there's all over the world. But let's talk about yeshiva in Israel, like Eish, right? Why is it so important to go to yeshiva? I always tell people this. The same thing I said before, but imagine you go to Eish. They have classes on everything, like I said, marriage, dating, fixing bad character traits, Jewish outlook on life, how to, Jewish law, so many things, Jewish history, whatever it is, so many amazing topics, just like being successful, working, whatever it is. The idea is, you have classes all day on that. There's no tests, there's no exams. You're around people like you, similar people who are also like-minded and growing. It doesn't matter your background. For example, Aish has guys who know, people who don't know any Hebrew, people went to Jewish school, people didn't go to Jewish school. The idea is there's all guys of all backgrounds, all religious levels. There's also the same thing for girls. And the idea is you go to yeshiva, they teach you, they teach you Judaism, they teach you all life wisdom. And now you go, you get educated, and then you go back to your life, and now you're on fire. You have a foundation, And I always tell people, going to what's the difference? Why do I have to go to yeshiva to learn? People tell me, why should I go to yeshiva? I could just learn at home. I'll learn a couple hours a day in between work. I'll tell you why it's so difficult. Imagine you want to, boil pasta. You put cold water in the pot, and you put it on the stove for 5 minutes and take it, 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. On, off, on, off, on, off. Will it ever come to a boil? No, it will never. Okay? On the other hand, if you leave it for 10 minutes straight, it will come to a boil. If you leave it for 10 minutes. And then, even if you put it on and off, it will still stay hot. Because why? You broke the activation energy. You broke the threshold of heat. So the idea is what? That's the same thing with yeshiva. When you learn here, it's on, off, on, off. You're learning 1 hour, and then you look, you're going to work, and, you're on your iPhone, whatever, and you're wasting your time. You're on Netflix, wasting your life, right? The idea is on, off, on, off, on, off. But when you go to yeshiva, there's no distractions. You don't have to worry about housing. They give you housing. They give you food. They give you everything. The only thing you have to do is literally clean your own clothing. That's the only thing you have to do. I'm telling you. I was there. Okay? You clean your own clothing. And you just show up and you study. You just learn. They teach you from the greatest rabbis. You're in the holiest place, in the holiest city, with the holiest people, learning the holiest book. You can't get better than that. And the idea is you study life wisdom, you invest in yourself, invest in your own personal growth. Yeshiva is a place where you study. It's a learning institute of personal growth, of working to be your best. You don't need to go to Tony Robbins to go read his books. You don't need to go here. Go to God himself. God will give you the info better than Tony Robbins, okay? The idea is what? To study life wisdom. And once you have that wisdom, once you break the threshold, you're in yeshiva again. You could go for a week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, a year, however long you want to go. And usually they cover all ages basically. Probably like 8, for age, for example, would be like 18 to 32, right? But there's other yeshivas that have older guys. But there's whoever wants to go, there's somehow a way for them to go. It doesn't matter the age. If they're really serious, they can really do it for girls and for guys. But the idea is, yeshiva is, and there's online yeshivas. But again, I recommend an actual yeshiva. But if someone can't go to an actual yeshiva in person in Israel or New York or wherever they are, there's no yeshiva there, then I recommend going to an online yeshiva. Olami, my program has an online yeshiva if anybody wants more details on that. But the idea is what? The idea is that you get the life wisdom, and then once you have that life wisdom, once you're on fire, now you know the red line. You know exactly. When I went to yeshiva, I learned the red line, where I'm supposed to be. I thought, I'm doing everything right. Once I went to yeshiva, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm here and I need to be here. And it set me the quote unquote the religious bar of, it set that bar of where I need to be in my life, where I need to reach to. Imagine you live with rabbis, tzaddikim, righteous people. And again, being, going to yeshiva doesn't mean you have to be a rabbi. People think, you want me to be a rabbi? What? Like what? No, that's not yeshiva. Yeshiva is a place where you learn life wisdom. And for me to describe it to you is kind of, I don't know. It's like trying to describe the Grand Canyon. You can't understand what it is until you go there yourself and see it for yourself. But the idea is, yeshiva is so powerful, and so many people's lives, have been changed. And a lot of people say, oh, why should I go to yeshiva? I remember myself. I said, oh, I want to finish college. I'm going to go to yeshiva after. I skipped 11th to 12th grade, and I told myself, okay, I'll go to yeshiva for a month. I'll go for 2 months. And my cousin told me, what's the big deal if you're whatever job you're doing, if you're age 25 or 26, it's not going to make a big difference. But whether you go to yeshiva or not will determine who your spouse is going to be, who your husband or who your wife's going to be. If you work on yourself, you'll have a better wife or husband. If you don't, you're not going to. You're going to get according to who you are. Who your kids are going to be, what your Shabbat table is going to look like. That's that really hit home a lot to me. What do you want your Shabbat to look like? You want your kids on Shabbat table basically to, you make all this food for them, or maybe you don't even have a Shabbat table, but let's assume you do have one. You want your kids on the Shabbat table that you put food on the table, and then one of the kids on his phone during dinner. Another kid is taking all the food and going to his room and watching, I don't know, like some TV show or some Netflix show, right? And then another kid is, leaving early. Oh, I gotta go hang out with my friends and go to a club. Like, what do you want your Shabbat table to look like? Or you want your Shabbat table to look like that? Or you want your Shabbat table to look like you have all your family, all your kids at the table, no one's on their phones, everyone's focused on each other, talking to each other. Finally, kids are conversing with their parents, talking about their life. If you have little kids at the table or anybody, whatever, they could give a Devar Torah, words of Torah. Well, imagine a cute little kid saying what he learned about the Parsha, how to be a better person, right? That's, the beauty and the singing and the food and the uniting and the bonding. Like, that's so amazing, but most people don't have that. Why? Because they don't invest in themselves. They're so focused on making money right away. I got to be a billionaire in one day that they fail in everything else. That's why, I'm not going to say the city, but there's a specific city in Los Angeles, a very, very rich city and famous city, okay? And the city, the number one, I asked, pharmacists who are in, these very, very wealthy areas, what is the number one product? What are you selling? And it's antidepressants. Why? You're in the richest city in the world. Why are you taking antidepressants? Mr. Rich Person. Why? You're so successful, you're so rich. Because they have no meaning and purpose. You don't know what you're living for. Yeah, you might have a wife and kids, but you're on the verge of divorce. Your kids are off the, skyrocketing in the wrong direction. None of them are getting married. None of them have meaning. None of them have purpose. They're just born into it. They have everything they want. They don't have any meaning and purpose. The idea is yeshiva will give you the meaning and purpose in your life. It will teach you what you're doing in this world. The greatest crime in the world is to not know your purpose in life. It's to not know what you're doing here. It's to not know what God, the creator of the universe, put you in the universe to do. If you don't know that, it's the greatest crime. It can't be a bigger crime than that. But the idea is what? To focus on our purpose, to focus on building ourselves, to become better people in our Torah learning, in our mitzvah observance, in our help, in our working in our own character traits, in our helping others. And Bezrat Hashem, if we understand that idea, that will lead us to success. And that's why, to answer the question, why did Yaakov go back to yeshiva if he's already there? Because he said, now I need to go to yeshiva and learn how to live life. I need to learn how to interact with the world. And this yeshiva, the Torah Academy of Shem, that's the place to go. That's where we see what the importance of learning Torah and studying Torah. So Bezrat Hashem, whoever is listening to this, if you need any help getting to yeshiva, you decide I want to spend a month there, 2 months there, I want to go a year, whatever, like 6 months, doesn't matter however long you want to go to. If you need help, please reach out to me. Again, indisputabletruth613@gmail.com. You can check out the website. Whatever it is, contact me. We'll help you get there. But Bezrat Hashem, the focus. And if you can't get there, you're not able to get there, there's Aish, there's Or Sameach, there's Nevei, there's girls seminaries, there's guy seminaries. Check out in the Indisputable Truth in the back of the book. There's recommended. But if you can't get there, there's online programs. So go on YouTube, go on Indisputable Truth Yeshiva. There's other programs out there. There's so many ways of learning. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.